Base Psalm Book.
The Base Psalm Book was the first book printed in British North America. The book is a psalter, first printed in 1640 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The psalms in it are metrical translations into English. The translations are not particularly polished, and none have remained in use, although some of the tunes to which they were sung have survived, for instance, Old 100. However, its production, just 20 years after the Pilgrims' arrival at Plymouth, Massachusetts, represents a considerable achievement. It went through several editions and remained in use for well over a century.
History.
The early residents of the Massachusetts Bay Colony brought with them several books of Psalms. The Ainsworth Psalter, 1612, compiled by Henry Ainsworth for use by Puritan separatists in Holland. The Ravenscroft Psalter, 1621. And the Sternhold and Hopkins Psalter, 1562, of which there were several editions. Evidently they were dissatisfied with the translations from Hebrew in these several psalters, and wished for some that were closer to the original. They hired 30 pious and learned ministers, including Richard Mather and John Eliot, to undertake a new translation, which they presented here. The tunes to be sung to the new translations were the familiar ones from their existing psalters. The first printing was the third product of the Stephen Day, sometimes spelled Day, press, and consisted of 148 small quarto leaves, including a 12-page preface, the Psalms in meter, an admonition to the reader, and an extensive list of errata-headed faults escaped in printing. As with subsequent editions of the book, Day printed the book for sale by the first bookseller in British America, Hezekiah Usher, whose shop at that time was also located in Cambridge. The third edition, 1651, was extensively revised by Henry Dunster and Richard Lyon. The revision was entitled The Psalms, Hymns and Spiritual Songs of the Old and New Testament, faithfully translated into English meter. This revision was the basis for all subsequent editions, and was popularly known as the New England Psalter or New England Version. The ninth edition, 1698, the first to contain music, included 13 tunes from Jean Playford's A Brave Introduction to the Skill of Music, London, 1654.
Title page.
The title page of the first edition of 1640 reads, "The whole book of Psalms faithfully translated into English meter, whereunto is prefixed a discourse declaring not only the lawfulness, but also the necessity of the heavenly ordinance of singing Scripture psalms in the churches of God." Cambridge, Massachusetts. Stephen Day.
Extant copies.
Imprinted, 1640. 11 copies of the first edition of the Base Psalm Book are known still to exist. One of these is in the Library of Congress, one is owned by Yale University, one by Harvard University, one by Brown University, one by the American Antiquarian Society, one by the Rosenbach Museum and Library, and two, housed in the Rare Book Collection at the Boston Public Library, are owned by Old South Church in Boston. Only 5 of the copies are in complete condition. Old South Church announced plans in December 2012 to sell one of its 2 copies of the Psalm Book.
Auction records.
On September 17, 2009, Swan Galleries auctioned an early edition of the Base Psalm Book, circa 1669 to 1682. Bound with an Edinburgh Bible, for $57,600, an auction record for any edition of the work. A 1648 edition described in American book prices current as the Emerson copy fetched $15,000 on May 3, 1983 at New England Book Auctions in South Deerfield, Massachusetts. Lot 245, and no other early edition has appeared on the auction market since.
In fiction,
The discovery of a 12th complete copy was one of the plot points in David Baldacci's 2006 thriller novel, The Collectors. A jewel-encrusted copy of the book appears in Linda Fairstein's 2008 novel, Lethal Legacy. In Will Harris the Baysom book Murder, 1983, the solution of a murder hinges on whether a newly discovered copy of the book is authentic. The novel won the 1984 Edgar Allan Poe Edgar Award from the Mystery Writers of America for the best first novel. A copy appears in the $1 Million debut of Batgirl, Detective Comics number 359, 1967. In this story, Barbara Gordon, a librarian, is delivering the book to Bruce Wayne when she discovers him apparently murdered by Killer Moth.